Assalamualaikum. My name is Siti Asha Midir Razwan and I am the leader of this group. Today, me and my friends are going to talk about Indonesia. So, let's get started. Indonesia. Indonesia is a country that is located in Southeast Asia and Oceania, in between the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Mixed economy had been applied to Indonesia. This country has the largest economy in the region and is classified as a new industrialized country. As of 2019, is the world's 16th largest economy by nominal GDP and the 7th in terms of GDP at PPP. Indonesia's economy has been changing over time. Their economy more focused to agriculture, reflecting both its stage of economic development and government policies within the 1950s and 1960s to market agricultural self-efficiency. In the late 1960s, and intensified in 1980s, a gradual phase of industrialization and urbanization began as dropping oil prices saw the government concentrate on diversifying away from oil exports and towards the manufactured exports. 2019, 9.41% of population lived below the poverty line, and the official open unemployment rate was 5.28%. However, in the late 2020s, the economy fell into recession for the primary time in 22 years, thanks to the consequences of the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic. This report will explain on how the public policies of Indonesia and will discuss the problems and methods to overcome the inflation and unemployment of Indonesia. That's all from me. I will pass it to my next friend. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Syadatina Syuhada binti Syafuddin. I would like to present about public policy in Indonesia. Macroeconomic policy is used to solve macroeconomic problems and achieve the target of macroeconomic goals. Concept of the macroeconomy is very wide and it need to refer to both instruments. The instrument they use is the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. Indonesia is the country use the monetary policy to solve their macroeconomic problems. The currency of rupiah with other country is used to exchange the free floating. So, Bank Indonesia have to operate to exchange rate policy designed to minimize excessive rate volatility rather than to pitch the exchange rate of particular level. To make sure the objective and their target, so Bank Indonesia continue their planning to conduct the monetary policy through the establishment of monetary target with primary goals of keeping inflation at the government prescribed level. The monetary policy is relied on the use instrument, including open market operation on the rupiah forex monetary market, setting the discount, prescribing operation and the minimum reserve requirement and the regulating credit of financing. Okay. The Bank Indonesia also apply the monetary controls based on the Sharia principles. Like we know, the inflation in Indonesia is totally demand pulled by the factor of the cost, which is the target of the inflation is more effectively. Bank Indonesia also invite the cabinet to chair and their chair by the President Indonesia to provide the opinion on macroeconomic and monetary development relevant to achieve of the inflation target. Okay. In my opinion, the government was estimate the stronger coordination in need to ensure the support of ministerial and regulation level TPI forums to bring about law, stable and inflation as platform to sustainable economic growth. Okay, next, let me explain more about monetary policy. Monetary policy is referred to the policy that employing the central bank control to the money that supplied to country use. Monetary policy is targeted to achieve the optimum level of employment and output, price stability, balance of payment, equilibrium, or other goals of the government economic policy that they want to achieve. Central bank will influence the total amount and the cost of credit primarily by affecting of the cash reserve of commercial banks in the country. Next, the objective of monetary policy is like we know that the goal of Bank Indonesia is to achieve the stability of rupiah. The goals of also mentioned in the Article 7 of Number 3 of 2004 concerning Bank Indonesia. Generally, we know that the objective monetary policy is to maintain the domestic price stability resources. Another objective of that generally should we know is to achieve the higher rate of economic growth and to maintain continuously low structure of interest rate. So Bank Indonesia have to take the inflation targeting framework in which inflation problem in the primarily of monetary objective. Monetary policy is rely used in the market setting, the discount rate, prescribing a minimum reserve requirement and regulating credit and financing. Okay, let's talk about the types of monetary policy. There is two types of monetary policy, just like fiscal policy that they need a government to apply in their economy. Types of monetary policy is expansionary monetary policy. This policy is aimed to increase the money supply in the economic in the country and control the unemployment or during recession. The things that we need to buy if used to expansionary monetary policy is buying the government securities bonds, decreasing reserve ratio and the decreasing discount rates. Next, the second types of monetary policy is contraction monetary policy. It is very useful to decrease the money supply in the economy and employ the inflation. The method used is the policy are selling government bond, increasing the reserve ratio and increasing discount rates. From that, it can help the country to increase their economy level equivalent with other developed country.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Aisyah binti Shamaluka and I'm going to present about fiscal policy. Fiscal policy refers to the use of government taxation and expenditures to influence the country's spending, employment and price levels. In other words, fiscal policy is the rule of the level of government in spending, taxes or public debt. From tax income and public debt, government can influence the aggregate output, employment and prices in the economy. The objective of fiscal policy: firstly, it's securing efficient allocation of economic resources. Secondly, attaining and maintaining full employment. Thirdly, accelerating the rate of economic growth. And the last one is controlling the equitable distribution. The types of fiscal policy: there is only two types of fiscal policy that need the government to practice to depending on the circumstances or the situation. One of the types of fiscal policy is expansionary fiscal policy that is used to overcome the employment or solving the problem. To solve the economy suffers from rising the unemployment, falling income and shrinking economy activity, government need to increase the public spending by undertaking public works, programs and need to reduce taxes. The effect from that, it would help the increase the amount of disposable income of individuals and business firms. And the second one is contractionary fiscal policy that is formed to overcome the problem in economy. Fiscal policy is appropriate to condition that country have the problem during the inflation. So, fiscal policy function to create a budget surplus in order to reduce aggregate spending. fiscal policy used method increase the taxes and the reduction of government spending. That's all. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Syakirin bin Hassan. Now I want to give an explanation about problem and method to overcome inflation in Indonesia. Inflation means an increase in the price of goods and service. Price for most items such as house, clothing, food, transportation, all and more should increase and continue for a long time. Yet, sometimes the level of inflation rise abruptly as a result of events that take place beyond the control of the government, including the effect of unemployment, the value of falling currencies and political instability. Indonesia is one of the famous countries in Southeast Asia. The country has a variety of attractions. Behind this rapidly growing country, the country is also not running away from the problem of inflation. During January to August 2020, Indonesia has faced inflation 0.93%, while the country experienced an increase in inflation of 1.32% every year. The following are the main causes of inflation in the country. Inflation can be caused by an increase in demand or excessive demand in the market. Because of the law of supply demand, along with the increase in demand, the price will also increase, causing inflation. Usually, an increase in demand occurs when the economy is good and the unemployment rate is small. This is very relevant in Indonesia, where you can say the people are relatively consumptive. In the 1980, Indonesia experienced rapid economic development due to tax cut and reduced interest rate. As a result, demand for property increased, causing property price to also increase rapidly at 30%. The increase in property price also had an impact on spending, which become higher. On the other hand, the value of saving is lower and there is a significant increase in loan. Next point is cost driven. Cost driven inflation means that there is scarcity in the production or distribution of goods, so that the price of goods rise. Reduced production of distribution of goods is caused by increased cost. For example, in the case of production of goods, the increase in cost can be caused by the following factor. The existence of a trade union ensure employee welfare. One way is to bargain with companies for better employee wage. On the other hand, the increase in wage can be a major factor in the growth of rising inflation, because wage are the most significant cost for many companies. Other than that, if a central bank print a larger amount of money, it will inevitably lead to inflation, because the amount money in circulation has a major role in determining the value of the currency. When people hold too much money, while the number of goods sold is fixed or less, there will be an increase in the price of the good, which in turn will cause inflation. For people who have fixed income, inflation is very detrimental thing. For example, a retired civil servant can meet all his daily needs only with a pension fund, but 10 years later his pension funds are no longer sufficient for his life because of his distant purchasing power decrease due to inflation. Next, I want to give an explanation about the way to overcome inflation in Indonesia. The first way to deal with inflation is to use monetary policy. Monetary policy itself refers to decisions that must be determined by the government in the financial sector. This monetary policy was created with the aim of maintaining the stability of the state financial condition. There are three types of monetary policy that must be established. Discount policy can also be relied on as a way dealing with inflation. This is done by stipulation from Bank Indonesia to increase the interest rate. With high interest rate at bank, people who initially continue to consume will be encouraged to save their money in the bank. As a result, the money in circulation can also be suppressed and inflation can be overcome. The next way to deal with inflation is by conducting open market operation. The open market operation is the moment when the government sells government securities openly to the public. Next, the way to overcome inflation cannot be done by setting monetary policy alone. The state can also implement fiscal policy to save Indonesia's economic condition from inflation. Fiscal policy itself is a policy step that can affect the nominal government spending. The first way of implementing the fiscal policy is by saving on the state on a expenditure plans. When the expenditure is pressed, the demand for goods and service is also priced down. As a result, price has fallen and inflation can be overcome. The second way of implementing fiscal policy is by increasing the tax rate. With high tax rate, consumption activity will also decrease. When consumption activity decrease, the demand for goods and service also decrease. That way, price will fall and inflation can be overcome. If that method above has not been able to reduce a country inflation, the government can still implement other policies because there is a lot demand while the goods are few. The first way that can be done to increase the production of this good when the amount of consumption and the quantity of goods are balanced, the price also become more stable than before. The government can provide subsidies for the industrial sector to produce the good in question while pricing for similar good to be imported from outside. Another policy that can be a way to overcome inflation and save the Indonesia economy is to set a maximum price. The maximum price is the maximum selling price limit that cannot be passed by producer or seller of good on the market. In this way, inflation can be also be reduced.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Shafiq bin Muhammad Taib. I will discuss to everyone about several strong causes that make the problem of employment in Indonesia. Firstly, caused by a lack of access to education, lack of opportunity to develop, and ability to compete, and lack of skill. Companies are more concerned with individuals who have high skill to achieve company target. Next, the rapid technological advancement in Indonesia. In Indonesia, the robot is increasingly used in industry. Unemployment has increased because the robot replace labor power. Besides, the economy downturn of Indonesia due to the issues of pandemic COVID-19. Many company or industry in Indonesia had to fire workers to bear losses due to this pandemic problem. In addition, occupation searcher as a rule will search of an employment that coordinate his inclination with due to instruction, or then again the aptitude it has. Not all position are suitable. Inclination are anything but difficult to get. Now and then, application searcher sit tight for opportunity reasonably, so it must to be inactive for some time. Next, I will talk about the way to overcome unemployment problem. Firstly, provide training and education on employment. Those who follow the training and education will give guide by the instructor on various methods of employment. Next, create the new job opportunities through technology. Government use vocational training for strategy policy to anticipate the effect of unemployment due to this digitalization and automation. Besides, provide subsidy and reduce tax to be paid by industry. This can alleviate the burden of a company or industry to face financial problem. In addition, is the propriety platform in making of offer about the position or job of a company position. The effect of this fraction employment can be overcome more effectively with the use of virtual platform.
Conclusion. Indonesia is the nation that has the region's largest economy and is listed as a newly industrialized country. Three most important, which are services, industries, and agriculture, has led Indonesia as the 16th largest industries by nominal GDP. Inflation is the decrease in the decrease in the given currency's buying power over time. The increase in the general price level, often expressed as a percentage, means that a currency unit essentially buys less than it did in the previous time. For example, in 1974, owing the shortage of this raw material, this price of raw oil increased by almost 400% in United States. This is due to the Middle East embargo as a producer oil. This event has sparked one of the worst inflations in history. Unemployment happens when an individual who is actually trying to find work but doesn't find work. Sometimes unemployment is seen as an indicator of the country's economy's stability. Example for unemployment issue is the use of robot in Indonesia. And for instance, is increasingly used in the industry. The percentage of but the result of this technological development is that as labor demand decreases, the unemployment rate rises since machine replace labor duties. Accept it or not, in order to stabilize the economic standard, the government and its citizens should collaborate, and all obligations are to ensure that they accomplish their goals for the country's good sake. That's all from us. Thank you.